sending VHSs out to little cable companies all over the United States, and they would play on the cable company system, and then folks would call in and say whether they liked it or didn't, they'd collect the data. Don't do that anymore. Pilots are tested in either Vegas or Disney World. Now, why would they do that? This is a test question here. Why would they go to Vegas and why would they go to
They're tourist destinations.
I'm sorry?
Tourist destinations.
Yeah, but you don't want people from Norway
demographic.
looking at it. You don't give a shit about them, right?
It's a good sampling of
I'm sorry?
It's a good sampling of demographics.
If you can, and it's right, and you do your research, it's a very good sampling, because obviously you're talking diverse, for sure.
Right.
Vegas, you get quite a few folks, that's where they walk around with their beer in their hand, right, in the yard of ale. Okay, and at Disney World, okay, of course, there's just a million people there too. So, then what happened is they would do that. The other thing is, once they tested well, we got into what's called internal viewings. Now, internal viewings would take place, excuse me, take place about, over about 2 or 3 weeks, probably in a room twice the size. All the executives would come out from New York, all the development people, the entertainment people from Burbank or whatever would be here. Big room, they had big screens at either end, and we would play these pilots for them. And that's these big internal viewings. So what would happen is we would try and get some sort of feedback from them, because these are all the people in the creative world that would try and do it. But I had a funny one that happened. I also had a department that did all what I would call the finish work for all these shows. We would do the QC. And when it came to kind of selecting the pilots, and I really hate to say this, but sometimes we select what we call the best of the worst. I know it's kind of hurtful, but. So the head of my editing department one time decided he's going to write an email to the head of the company saying that you could save a lot of money, save all the trips, save everything by having these people come out looking. Just ask this department, we'll tell you what's good and what's bad, because they were processing it. Do you think you got a reply? No. Didn't get a reply, but that was part of what was going on. So I have to tell you a couple of them that I do recall that stand out for me. You probably remember these, and it was just amazing. One of them was called ER. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
That pilot was dynamite. That's the only way I could describe it. It was amazing. It was well produced, it was crafted well, it was well acted, great pace to it. And when the lights came up, there wasn't a sound in the room. And I'm going, uh-oh. Then it was thunderous applause. It's the only way I could describe it. And so guess what got picked up? I mean, there was just no way around it. How it was going to happen. But I have to tell you another one. You probably remember that, you probably see this comedian, he's on from time to time, Martin Short. He was on Saturday Night Live quite a bit for a while. He did a comedy. I don't even remember the name of it, but I got to tell you something. It was one of the funniest damn comedies I'd ever seen in my life. I damn near peed my pants. It was so funny. They did about 3 shows, and that was it. The reason for it is they couldn't sustain it. It couldn't be kept up. And that's why I mentioned to you now that if you're going to be pitching a network, that you better go in with at least 5 to 6 scripts, okay? You got to do that. Now, a little bit about scripts. Yes, ma'am?
5 to 6 scripts of the same product, or 5 or
Oh, not different ones, of the same product. You want a series.
A series, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, I should say, yeah, thank you for asking, but it's a series. Yeah, you want to try and keep the continuity there too.
Oh, a series of the same.
So,
Yes,
Oh, okay.
somebody said?
No, I
Yeah,
have to go to a previous engagement.
Okay, I would hope so.
It's nice.
Just wash your hands.
Thank you.
So they might be a series
I'm
of
sorry.
1 hour segments at the same time.
Yeah, let's say it's a drama, it's usually 1 hour, okay? And now you would have 6 one-hour scripts of the same thing. Not 6 separate ones, okay, of the same thing. So anyhow, that was the problem with that, and that's why what started things off about doing the continuity. Now here's another one. It's called prior commitments and politics. You ever hear of politics? You hear that every day, right? Probably the best one I can give you was when Friends wrapped up. Remember that was a huge show? When that wrapped up, they made a commitment to Warner Brothers to do a follow-up show called Joey with one of the characters in the show, and I forget the character's name. But I don't think that lasted more than about three episodes. It tanked right off the bat. But you know what? They still finished The Commitment, and it was a very big hit in Italy. So you got to know there's more than just a U.S. market. Okay, there's another one. So it's really kind of fickle in terms of the selection. It's very subjective, not objective. So I got to give you another one. Do y'all remember Cheers? Big show? That almost didn't make it. When they tested it, people didn't like the characters. Who wants to listen to a womanizer and a bunch of drunks? If you shorten it up, you think about that setting. The guy who owned the bar, and the people who were in there were just kind of like a crazy bunch. But the guy who was and there was two of them that were assigned to the show, the program executives, they said, no, we got a good feeling about this and we're going to give it a go. And guess what? They had a good feeling and it worked. Are you ready for another one? Have you heard of Seinfeld? Okay. Elaine was not in the original pilot.
Yes.
Okay, you've heard that.
Yes.
Okay, it was just Costanza and Jerry and Kramer. Okay, the three crack. Well, that didn't test well either. Because who wants to listen to three guys whining? And another program exec did pretty much the same thing. He had a good feeling about the show, and he says, no, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to give it a heads up. Turned out to be incredible. It was really pretty good. Probably the most two successful shows on the air. Now, once a pilot's issued and it's completed, there's something called a deal memo, not a commitment, not a contract, but a deal memo, which is kind of an understanding of what the production company's going to do and what NBC's going to do. Okay? And I still call it NBC, it could be ABC. The one thing I found out when we were doing a lot of these shows, that even when a contract was issued, the contracts may not have been signed. A lot of stuff was done. A lot of shows were completed, actually went into series without having a signed contract, which is kind of goofy, but sometimes those things happen. Now, let's talk about sitcoms for a moment. Sitcoms, I have to say, are the real money in the business, in the TV business. And the reason why is because basically they're half an hour, they're easily scheduled, and they can go into syndication very easily. But how many episodes do you need to go into syndication? That's a trick.
Well,
How many?
12, 13.
Nope. Try 80 to 100.
Oh my God.
Okay, why would you have to have, and if you think about MASH, you think about Cheers, you think about all those shows, do they have at least that amount when they went into syndication? The whole idea for that is not to do repeats. If you don't have enough, okay, if you don't have enough on repeats, then, then you start getting into repeats and people get tired of it. That's why you need at least 80 to 100, more if possible, if you could do that. Some of the shows have, as you go along, I think what's the medical one on ABC that's been there forever?
General
Right.
Hospital.
I'm sorry?
Right.
No, not a daytime one, it's the
Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy. What do they got, 3,000 or 4,000 now? I mean, they've been on 8 or 9 years or something like that. So they're probably in the syndication while they're actually on the air. Now, another thing that's taken place over the years, initially, the networks were not allowed to own their own product. That was called the financial syndication rule, and a few years ago, the FCC got rid of it. So we're going to have like NBC Productions, or it'd be CBS Productions. You've probably seen that on some of the logos. And what that means is a new term that you may or may not hear about, I'll give it to you now. It's called vertical integration. And what that means is, in terms of vertical integration, is that the network, which whatever one it is, owns the show, produces the show, airs the show, and syndicates the show. Okay? And you think you can make a few bucks off of that? Because basically, when you do a network show, you only get 2 airs. You get the original, and you get the repeat. That's it. You don't get any more. And then that's the sort of royalties that end up going to the production companies. Now, shows are licensed. You know that. They're not purchased. Okay, the networks pay money to do this. Okay, And what else happened in the context of this, I think it goes back to Friends, which was a huge hit, that when their contract period was up, I think it was after 4 years, 3 or 4 years, do you think they wanted more money or less money to continue? And I think what happened, I can't say for sure, but I think what happened was, I think at some point I read about this, and I'm not really privy to a lot of it, but I think each one of the actors got $1 million per episode. I think I heard that.
Yeah.
And so, did you guys hear that as well?
Yeah.
Well, the networks don't have that kind of money, okay? Because normally, when you're producing, and we'll get a little more into the cost of this stuff, don't have that kind of money. So they had to go back to Warner Brothers, which was the production company. Says, you guys, since you're going to be syndicating it, you're going to make all the money off of it anyhow. So you could do that. I think the one that was really interesting and got into this was Seinfeld. When his contract was up, because we were owned by GE at the time. Good things to like. Yeah, well, that was a good one. Anyhow, he talked about extending the contract period from 3 to 5 years to 5 to 7. So just in case it was a big hit, you wouldn't get another one of those sort of things from like what he did with Friends. So what happened with this is we were able then to have, no joke, the guy who was the head of GE, now this is another rumor, he was the head of GE, offered Seinfeld stock in GE. Who has their $3.95 stock of GE now? You've all heard, right? You've all heard the deal. Yeah, I know. I was one that didn't get rid of it. Okay, so they want to try and keep it there for now. Now I got to switch gears a little bit. Now the mechanics of show delivery. Okay, because now, once again, remember I'm not going to talk about the creative. At one point, shows were delivered on videotape. You guys remember that? Do you remember the tsunami they had in Japan a few years ago? Guess what that wiped out? The videotape manufacturer. It was Sony. And they were the biggest manufacturer of high definition tape because we were going HD at that time. And what that caused is a whole different format in the context of delivering product. Usually we would have, in my case, ABC and CBS, we'd have a videotape come to my editing department. And then we would do the QC on the tape, we'd do all sorts of things to it. But now it's a download. Just like you get streaming, consider it that. It's almost the same sort of thing as streaming. A little more sophisticated, but it's streaming. The other thing we would do too is when we had videotape, we would actually ship the shows to New York. And they would originate the shows there from New York Broadcast Operations Control. Every now and then that shipment would end up in Venezuela. or some other place other than New York, okay? And that made a lot of excitement because when we had to get the show then fed to New York, they'd record it, we'd play it back, they'd play it back, etc. But there's a lot of mechanics that's associated with this, so we're going to get into a little bit more. So at my department, I had 6 editors and I had 2 associate directors, and this is where day and night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we would go ahead and we would do all the quality control, make sure the technical specifications, all the timings. Now, a little earlier, I heard you talking about, and this is probably in your biz, not necessarily my biz, pages. So many pages, correct? For whatever. In my world, which is TV world, not production, but on air, we don't talk about pages, we talk about timing. A show has to be a certain time. And each one of the networks is slightly different. So I could tell you what NBC does. I can't tell you what ABC does, but it's pretty close. So sitcom, we all know, is about a half an hour, okay? It has 3 commercial breaks, and I'm giving you formats now, so if you want to use this for your structure for sitcom, go right ahead. It has 3 commercial breaks, and it averages a total of about 21 minutes. So what's the rest of the time besides the 21 minutes when you're watching a show? What's that go to?
Advertising.
I'm sorry?
Commercial.
Advertising, promos, PSAs, that sort of thing. That's the sort of time that it goes to. But what we would do for the premiere episode is we wouldn't have 3 breaks, we'd have 2. And then we would have a very long first act. Why would we do a long first act? I can't.
Keep your audience.
Yeah, you want to keep your audience. That's what you want to try and do. First act, Your first act, you know this is the hook, you know that. You wanna bring people into the doorway, okay? A drama, which is usually an hour, would have 5 commercial breaks. Usually about 43 minutes in length, sometimes 44. And it's to the there's seconds, but basically that kind of rounding. So about 44 minutes in breaks, and then we would do the same thing. Instead of 5 breaks for the premiere episode, we would do 4. Okay, so once again to do this. Now a movie of the week, which is another term for it's called long form, which you may have heard, or made for TV, MFTV, all means the same thing, would have 8 breaks, okay, and it'd be about 88 minutes in length, okay. Now what I mean by length, I mean that would be sometimes called script time, or sometimes called camera time. Now that's outside of credits and this one, and we'll get into credits in a minute. Next thing we would do, but we don't do these very often, it's called mini-series. Usually, with a mini-series, it would be over 2 or 3 nights or maybe more. I think you go back a long time ago, remember Roots?
Yeah.
That went on forever. Which till this day is still considered one of the primo series that's ever happened to TV. And what happens is that on a movie of the week, made for TV, not necessarily they would cut a break out, but they would ensure, just like you would on a drama or a comedy, that the first act probably should be about 12 to 14 minutes in length. Okay, 12 to 14 minutes in length. Once again, you want to try and keep the people there. Now, in a miniseries, what they would do is at the end of the first night, they would do a teaser for the next night. Okay, so you would have the end of the